This may indeed be appropriate time to share the results of a survey that we have commissioned, a small bit of um, research. Uh, this basically summarized shows that on the streets of Nigeria today, the people are one, hungry and angry. The people are tired of lies from politicians that are self-serving. The people want peace and progress and not whose turn it is on any political matter. The people want democracy but are tired of selections that do not reflect the will of the people. And you can see this from local government elections. People are almost completely disinterested because they don't think that the politicians are honest or take elections seriously. So they don't even bother. So let them do whatever they like. Every election in Nigeria is a coup d'etat. That's the way the people see it. And they just think that it will catch up with the politicians sooner than later. But they don't care. They're not interested in what politicians are organizing. So that unless there is dramatic reform of the electoral system, is gone. Nigerians don't think we have a democracy. And the pushback will come in many ways that might surprise politicians. The people who want jobs, not explanations of policy and promise that are hardly ever kept, and projections that are never met. You have seen how the Manufacturers Association has reacted to the rebasing. I don't need to add anything to that, but might touch on it as I talk about manufacturing sector later in this reporting. The people are fed up with being used and deceived with ethnic, religious, and other self-serving schemes that divide peoples, which politicians tend to dredge up to use to get support against opponents. They say we cannot farm, we cannot travel because the roads don't exist. So the people say that we cannot farm, we cannot travel. The only option that seems to be there for travel is air travel. And we all know what's happening with air travel. I personally have had flights delayed for as long as 6-7 hours in the last 3 weeks, twice. How do you have an economy that can grow if transportation, which is so basic and so fundamental to economic development, is now almost totally collapsed in Nigeria because they can't go by road, they cannot fly, and the rail services are not working, just a few link points. So the people say politicians should listen to the people and not babalawos, marabots, and prophets who deceive them. These are feedback from survey of the people.
Whether or not you agree with the results of this survey that Patutomi and whoever the commission to carry out this survey came up with, it more or less reflects the feelings of Nigerians as of this moment in terms of this government. So for me, the summary of this survey is A, Nigerians are tired of this government. Two, Nigerians cannot see a way out of the current problem or difficulties this government has thrown Nigerians into, and they want it out. Three, our election system has become close to or is more or less like a coup. If you take an example of what happened in Rivers State, how Bola Tinubu more or less superimposed himself and administrated on the Rivers people with his stamp of approval by the National Assembly illegally, though, unconstitutionally, though. That lets you know how it reflects as more or less a coup. Because if you've ever seen a coup happen before, you realize that that's more or less a portrayal of a civilian coup on a democracy. For example, when coups are happening, they're taking over the radio station and they're announcing and they're already locking up the whoever they haven't taken the coup against. So what happened in the night in the state of emergency in Rivers State was that as Bola Tinubu was announcing the decision of the suspension, Military officers were already going to the state house the state house, and Fubara had to run away. That portrayal I've just given to you just gives you a vivid image in a very few words on how coups happen. That's why Patutomi says election in Nigeria has become more like a coup d'etat. So let me just give you a few things he mentioned. It says people are hungry and hungry. People complain about the lies from politicians who are self-serving. The Nigerian people want peace and progress, and not whose turn it is to lead in whatever form of way or whatever. It says democracy. You know, people are tired. We don't see us practicing democracy right now because the election results don't reflect the will of the people. So the people are getting tired, and politicians are doing that on purpose to tire us out of it because they know that if we continue to participate, we will vote them out. So they need to tire us out with this corruption so that they can continue to remain there. It says, unless there's a dramatic reform of our electoral system, Nigeria is gone. We don't have democracy, or we won't have democracy. It says, if people want jobs and not explanations of policies and promises, because if you look at this government anyway, take an example. Bola Tinubu told Nigerians, if he doesn't fix certain things in the economy, we should vote him out in 2027. And he's not done that. So what is happening now is that he's got a year and a few months left to actually, finish his 4-year term. We have to vote him out because if Nigerians cannot travel, one of the things that Pastor Tommy mentioned is that people cannot go to farm, people cannot travel. Road travel is difficult. Air travel is road travel is so hard, air travel is even very difficult. Cancellations, high fees, and stuff like that. People are not safe. So, what is literally happening in essence is that everything that this government, even in its basic responsibilities of protection of lives and properties, it has failed. If a government fails in carrying out its basic responsibility, that means the country has failed. And that's what is literally happening. If you cannot go out, if you cannot do interstate travel in Nigeria, from one part of the country to the other part without being afraid of being kidnapped or have a bandit or killed in the process, then the government has failed, and that's exactly what is going on in Nigeria at the moment. But the main thing I want to focus on technically is our electioneering processes. It says that because that should catch your attention. If somebody as prominent as Patatomi comes on national TV and tells Nigerians to say that election has become like a coup in Nigeria, that should concern you. And it says that unless there's drastic electoral reform, we don't have a democracy anymore. Do you agree with that? See, Nigerians are tired, are fatigued as well, but we're not going to let off. We're not going to give up on the push for a proper country that we want, the sort of country that we want to have in as we move forward from 2027. But when you look at the way elections are conducted in Nigeria, you realize that over the years, the judiciary has been the one to elect for us or choose for us who our leaders will be. And that's why we have this system that is not working. That's why Nigeria is on a steady decline and it's been there for so long. We didn't just appear for nothing. This decline has been going on for so long. So what that technically means in essence is that elections don't reflect the will of the people, whether locally, statewide, or nationally. It doesn't. The people don't have faith in the election body anymore, in INEC. We don't have faith in INEC because we know that they will rig the election. Now, in certain instance, when Patutomi said that without drastic electoral reform, then we don't have democracy. I agree with him. However, I do not also think that drastic electoral reform is all that we need, even though it's a first step in that direction. The judiciary needs to get its hands off our election. The judiciary needs to get its hand over an election. If any election is seen to be compromised, that should be a recount. There should be either a recount or a retake of that election. And by the way, we're tired of because we know that judiciary has become a plaything in the hands of politicians, in the words of Aisha Yusufu. We're tired of the corruption that is coming from politicians to the judiciary to help them rig results and then certify those rigged results. So we're tired of it. We don't want that anymore. Okay? And true to the words of Patutomi, Nigerians are fed up of this government. And I'm saying to everyone, I said this before, the president told us not to vote for him. Don't vote for him in 2027 because he has failed in his basic responsibilities and in the promises of its campaign that he gave us. And he told the nation and the world at large, don't vote for me if I don't do electricity and all the other promises he made. And he's not been able to do it. You can see the corruption that this government is perpetuated every single day. The corruption following this government is something that you should worry as well, because for me, I don't see, you know, any change. So we want electoral reform because we want a democracy that works. We want a system where leaders emerge through a free, fair, and credible election processes. Without it, many of Nigerians will not feel, we won't feel Nigeria, we will feel trapped. We want to end the cycle of corruption, of bad governance, and all of our broken institutions. We don't want that anymore. What we want is a system that works where all Nigerian lives matter, where we can live together, as we've done in time past, and will not be used as tools in the hands of politicians who will corrupt for their own personal gains. These are the kind of things we're talking about. So, but for you, I want to ask you, do you think that every election has turned to become a coup in Nigeria? Do you agree with Patutomi that Nigerians are fed up? We're fed up of this government. We want a change in 2027. How do we go about it? Put your suggestions, put your comments, put your thoughts in the comment section. Let's have a chat. Don't forget to like, share, and also subscribe. Remember to recommend this channel to others. I will catch you up in the next video. God bless you. Bye bye for now.